Good morning, everybody. I'm going to start taking out this front door here, and it's involving replacing the whole door outright with a new replacement door that matches the opening in the same size. I'm going to not put brick mold up, but there's some existing window trim. That means I'm going to be ripping down some material and place it on the outside of the door as a finished product. The door is to be set on the original sill of the door, this gray piece of material down here. So between pulling this door out, cutting off the sill at the bottom, and keeping the gray piece, the gray original sill, and I see it sloped a little, so I'm going to have to rip a tapered piece that will help hold up that sill flat, or I might be able to cut it a little bit and make a flat spot. We'll see how that goes, depending on what I need for the rough opening, the height of the door, so it matches the original stance that it has inside the house. So we'll see how this goes. Since this is an older door, and I didn't see any logo on this glass where it would be labeled as tempered, I'm going to have to duct tape the whole glass just so if it should crack, it won't come apart in pieces that would be very sharp and dangerous. So I removed the wood stops from the inside, and only the caulk is holding it on the outside now. I'm going to cut the seal. This thing has been caulked in from this side, from the outside, for good reason. But I still got to cut that loose. The stops are removed from the inside, so once I cut this caulk line here, it should be pretty easy, maybe pretty easy to remove. I usually have the regular breakaway box cutter knife. What I like about these is I can extend that blade out and get a nice long low angle without hopefully breaking the blade off, so I can get really close to the glass and cut that sealant without anyway, with my other razor knife, you can see this is a lot thicker than that, so with that I have to get in, and the blade only sticks out so far. So this one has to go at an angle like that, where this is going to lay in a much closer angle and get a better slice beside that glass to separate it from the wood. Yeah, that's going right in there with a little help to start it, but it is going. It's going in about 1/2 of an inch, which is how deep that, what they call the rabbet, that's the notch that the glass goes in, just the same as the door. It's about 1/2 of an inch, and that's going in that 1/2 of an inch as well. That's good. The glass is readily moving. I don't know if you can see it, but it's separating a crack right here. I can actually put my fingers in it right there. So that's good news. Good. It is literally pushed in about 1 inch at the bottom. So all I need to do is just remove that top stop. Get the nails bent out of the way. And there we have one piece of glass. Remove the brick mold next, so I can see the rough opening space all the way through the whole section of the house. So it's going to start by cutting the caulk away from the siding, because if I start pulling the brick mold off, it's a good chance it'll pull some of the face of the side. And the caulk usually grips onto the wood really good, and when it blows out the face of the wood, it's really bad. I'm expecting this to take 1 inch cut, 1/2 of an inch cut, so it should clean up stuff, but I really don't need to take that chance of it running back farther than that. Okay, that rolled right in. That's kind of good. Wasn't expecting it. Fascinating. When I prize that, I don't know if you've seen it on camera, but that door just rolled in like there ain't no fastenings in the jamb at all, holding the side of the door to the framing. Not supposed to be done that way, but it lasted until I took it apart. All right, got to take apart the sill piece by piece. Okay, it is definitely a slope sill that I can count on. I might be better off pulling the whole thing and separating it out. It's beginning to look like that. Superbly contrary. Trim where I'm pulling the hammer at right here is pulling the trim away from the siding at the same time, so it's separating it away from the siding rather than pulling it across directly out, which could still catch some wood and trash the siding edge out. So that's working good here. The door wants to fall out of the opening. Now I gotta see just what this is doing. That's why. Okay, it's glued, just like I would do. 81.5 unit size. 81.5 unit size. And I got 81.75 unit size. So ideally, I got to drop this new threshold down into this floor an additional 1/4 of an inch. So it's going to really behoove me to take this apart, take this out, table saw it to that new thickness. Well, it's a little bit lighter to take out, but whether it's any more willing to take out, that's debatable. A poured slab. Son of a gun. Fancy that. Yeah, I thought I was going to be able to leave the sill in, but I couldn't. They glued the subsill that I need where I need to set the door at. They horrendously glued it on. I got to table saw it off, and the only way to do that is to pull it out. Yeah, and surprisingly, there was concrete underneath. Yeah, quite an interesting at least. How long have you had the house?
5 years.
5 years. This all still original to you, or
Original to us.
Okay.
But it used to just have steps, I think.
Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, just fascinating what you find when you start taking apart a house. So I got this ready to cut with the table saw. Now I got the nails cleaned up and such. But you got to set the gauge right to get the blade in the right spot, because I got to lower it down 1/4 of an inch also. So between cleaning it up, it's kind of like taking advantage of a situation I wasn't expecting.
Sure.
Because yeah, I have, that's 81.75. This is 81.25 to here, so I got to lower it down 1/4 of an inch. All right, so I got 1.5 inches like I was expecting. So I need 1 1/8 inches. And that'll get me down where I need to be. And that's got to be as deep as that puppy will go. And I want to hear nails sing. I'm thinking. There's a whole mess of nails that the threshold was held in by from one side or the other. My planer's hitting it, so I'm going to set them in deeper. I got just enough room to get the door, and that's about it. I'd rather have it a little bit lower. I'm going to plane this down some more and just let the planer blades catch the brunt of it. I got to really just take off the high spot. Hopefully this will buy me a little bit more room. I need to carefully lay out where the siding is going to get recut at, so I got to go from center to center to make sure I get the spacing exactly right for the new trim to fit into its space. I already cut the other side with my saw guide here. Worked out really nice, so I'm going to do it again. Oops, that's me. Definitely a lot easier than trying to do the skill saw freehand over top of all these lumps of siding. I'm going to see if I can get it to go off at least to some degree. Rest of it's freehand by multi-master or whatever, and I can do that with the door in, so I'm not having all this dust blow inside the house. So I'm going to change back and put the door in now, just so there's at least somewhat of a dust control. That one piece does it very well instead of those two, so I'm going to, that's the thickest one of my run. I'm surprised that I needed to use that one still, but I can't get that taper down any flatter, otherwise it's going to be well beyond the edge of the sill. I got 1/4 of an inch to spare over top of the opening, so I got a little bit more than what the original did. And I really needed to get that extra 1/4 of an inch in the height so I could get the door tipped in compared to the old door, the way it was really too tight in the opening, and I had to cut it out to that degree. But getting the new door in, I needed that space to be able to set the door over top of the caulk without it smearing everywhere. So that was important just for the finish of the interior without having caulk moved around or smeared around all over the place. Let me see if I can roll this down. My. It's nice when it comes off that easy. I got a full flat bottom, which is also nice. So that means I can caulk pretty much anywhere at the bottom and we're good to go. And I just remembered that this flooring may need to be cut back because, yes, it is inset to the drywall. You can't beat that for a straight edge across the proper way. I mean, from drywall to drywall, it is right there. So I'm going to be able to ease that off to give me some play room. Now, it would be nice if I could pop this out and table saw it like that. Hopefully I can get it back in as easy. Since it was a floating floor, it was easy to pull the piece, rip it down on the table saw, and set it back. It's nice when it can go that easy. So next is caulk. Get some sealant down. Let's see. Yeah, you can see that I brought it up around the corners here also, just in case some driving rain happens to come in here. This is a well-covered area, but there could be some driving rain that might let something blow into that part of the door rough opening. So I got that blocked off there, besides the regular draft prevention across the rest of the middle of the sill through there. It's got the drywall trying to hold it in place, so I think I can step away from this to get some shims and get this thing started being pressed in place, so to speak. I'm going to shim this down from the top so it presses into that caulk that I set at the bottom first. It should be golden here. Should be looking pretty good. And check the door head. It says this side's got to come up 3/4 of a mile. Now, why does the sill say one thing and the door head now says the other? It's always good to check these things. It's not really 3/4 of a mile, but it's like 1/8 of an inch. I got 3 inches to the line. I got 3 inches there and 3 1/4 there. So yes, everything says it's got to slide over that way and raise up, looks like. No. Yeah, it says that's got to go up. Everything says that side has to go up. Or this side has to go down. Maybe it'll, looks like it can afford to go down. I'm going to get the door leaf swing and let it tell me what I need to do. Now that I see the door and reading the gaps, I can see what I've actually measured, but it just didn't compute because I had 3 inches to the cut line for the trim on one side, 3 1/4 on the other side. So it tells me the bottom has to go over in the proper direction to correct the problem with the door. Anyway, I'm shimming that now and I'm getting ready to pin the bottom in permanently so I can still adjust the top the way it needs to. And actually, I'm only pinning the bottom on this side over here because this side may have to go up in the air, maybe 1/8 of an inch. But when I start racking it, I'll see exactly how much, when I start getting it plumbed, that is, racking it to get it plumbed. That way I'll be able to see exactly what I need to do to get this in place proper for the height and for the squareness of the door. I got 3 1/16 and 3 3/16, so I got to bring it back just a little. The level said I needed to, so take it back a little. All right, that's what I'm looking for, is 3 1/8 top and bottom, and that's what I got. So far, it's looking where it needs to be. Yeah, now the way the gap reads at the top of the door is what I need to know. Now from here on, a lot of it's just reading the gap of the door, closing the door, checking the gap, raising it low, whatever it needs. You just, get that gap nice and even all the way around. I got it within the jamb limits so the trim meets well. I got it reading nice on the plumb cuts there for the siding to go back in for the trim to be uniform all the way through. So it's just a matter of now just playing with all this to get that gap on the inside right. I got a larger gap here at the top than what I have over there on the other side. So this side's going to come up to get that to act proper. I'm going to let this thing help me out lifting that up. It's actually been very nice help so far. There you go. I picked up about 1/8 of an inch. Very nice. This should be getting really close. That's the reason why I'm pinning it now. Because if I got to move it, it's going to be so little. Yeah, I got to go about another 16 still. It's right where the bottom used to be originally. So that's a good thing. The drywall on the inside was in the way of letting the jamb move the way it needed to, so I cut it out just because I couldn't put my shims in where I needed. I got the top shim, I got the bottom shim tightened up, ready to go. As usual, I'm going to pop the middle pin out of the door and let that jamb move in and out to get it to go exactly in line with the pin for the door. So the door is acting as a straight edge, and that'll get my jamb dead straight for making sure the hinge will not be tweaked in place one way or the other. Now that's exactly where it needs to be, so I just got to shim that right there and not move it. Now that pin ought to drop right back in, and it does, just like that. If it wasn't aligned right, it would not drop in very well at all. I'd have to drive it in. Okay, I can finish securing this in place with some well-placed screws. And I got this to finish off. Very good. As a rule, see, the light's terrible. As a rule, I always try to get one hinge, one long screw in each hinge, so that way it helps hold the jamb steady, keeps it in any kind of a tough situation the door has to go through. It can handle it a lot better, because usually the screws rip out of the jamb, which is where I've always seen over my years. Now I'm going to go ahead and place a couple of screws in behind the weather stripping here. So that's hidden by the weather stripping, and these are going to hold more than, well, I won't say anything. The hinge screws are really going to have it. So what I'm going to do is ease back the weather stripping like this to get that lip pulled back, roll the screw in right where the hinge is, right where the shim is, and keep it just enough away from the door stop so the head doesn't interfere with anything going in. And there's that screw in place. And the weather stripping covers it back up again. Just wanted to show you that. 80 and 5/8, so it's 81 and an eighth. 81 and an eighth. 81 and an eighth, maybe twice. And I would say 81 and a 16th is good too. Okay, let's cut that big old trim that I got down to 81 and an eighth, rip it into two 2.5-inch pieces, and then throw that stuff up in the air. Actually, I'm going to trim off the inside first because I want to foam it from the outside in case if I make a mess, it'll be out here rather than inside somebody's living space when I run the foam perimeter insulation. If you're going to reuse your trim, like these people have pulled off the old trim on the inside and salvaged it, it didn't break or nothing like that, so really no reason why not. When the trim is caulked in place by painters or by, whatever you may have done as well, it's always good to peel, shave, cut the caulk back off again. And I like taking my sanding block that I keep handy and just dress that edge back down to make sure that it all gets back to almost like brand new factory, from the mill when it was first made. So that way it'll caulk a lot easier, paint a lot better when it's all done. And I have just enough difference in length from the new to the old door where I can just cut a little bit of this off and clean up this miter joint too at the same time. I know the height will be shorter as well, so I can clean up those joints and make these miters come together because it always has that boogered up paint job on the face right here. And if I can get rid of that, better still. I would be able to take the camera in there and show what's going on, but it's really crappy lighting in there. At least for video, I can see fine. It's just that the light coming through the door is problematic. ahead and cut this trim to length like I was mentioning beforehand. I already got the numbers written down. I want to cut the trim off at 81 1/8 and then split it in half. Alright, I got the perimeter foam. You might be able to see some of the insulation poking out where it was really thin spots, so it's hard to really govern that very well. But over here on the other side where they were wider at the top and such, that could be dispensed easily enough to where I don't have a whole mess poking out. I've already got the trim on the inside finished off again. The lighting is really bad for setting the camera up in there and trying to show you what I'm doing, so you just got to take my word for it. So this one's set for this side, and I've already taken this one and eased off this edge that little bit where I have that table saw cut. And that's going to go towards the siding where a caulk will cover up a lot of this over here. But because it's a stained door, I'm going to caulk the inside, but I'm going to take advantage of that little radiused edge. And I'm going to put that caulk right inside that radiused edge there, so it'll keep a nice clean line so it doesn't muddy that the stained face on this door. And this should be about really some sticky stuff still. So I'm going to find a shim to scrape off the excess, because I don't have to worry about it once I get that much off. And that lets it be. Oh, that's actually handleable. Good. Not a problem. And again, that just makes it hold the paint better. The edge doesn't want to chip so quickly, because you get that really sharp edge, you can get a splinter and that splinter will pull and just keep on going down to the material. I've seen it happen, and it probably won't happen here, but still it's just a good habit to get into. And it looks like I could lose a little bit more length on that. Curious. Now 56 3/4, and they're holding their end square. Yep, holding their end square, so there's no overhang. So 56 3/4, 56 3/4. No, 55 3/4. I'm glad I double checked. 55 3/4. Find that. Good. Now, I just got to take a half inch by 5/8 out of this thing. So 5/8 out, half inch down, or even 5/8 by 5/8 will work. That's fitting that side real nice. And since this receives no weather, it's not no issue here. If it was weather, I'd have to cut the siding out, run some flashing up inside there. But this right here is golden. I'm on the home stretch. I'm curious how that doorknob's going to go, because it looks like a pretty elaborate one. I got the door trim on, it's all caulked in. I got the nail holes filled in. Foam, I think you've seen that much go in. Anyway, it's ready to be considered done. All thing I need to do is put on the door hardware. And that brings this video to a close. The door hardware, I'm not going to video that. My main highlight was what it took to get the old door out with the slope sill and get the new door in. It had its own nuances, which I was glad to show this to you. Hopefully, if you did pick something up from this, please like and subscribe.